Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to this video. This is going to be the first video in this Thuluth basic learning series that I'm launching on YouTube. Even though basic, it is going to be very detailed. Over the course of next perhaps 30 odd videos, we will discuss all 27 letters in the Thuluth script, of course from the Arabic alphabet. Okay, so in this video I'm gonna set the agenda and then we will begin. We will learn everything about how to manipulate the Qalam. What I mean by that is, how can we get thinner stroke and thicker stroke with the same Qalam? And what angle should you hold the Qalam at? How should you hold the Qalam in your hands? And then it becomes easier for you to start practicing after that. For that purpose, I'm going to use a Sally Qalam. Perhaps I will use a 15 mm Qalam and a smaller Qalam to demonstrate just that. Okay, right, so let's begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The first thing that I want to talk about in this video is how you hold the Qalam, and it is quite an easy process. Actually, it's not a difficult thing. If I put it in a nutshell, you hold the Qalam exactly the way you hold a pen. So this is how you hold a pen. All you do is replace the pen with the Qalam. This is how you'll hold the Qalam. That's step one. Okay. Step two is you will make sure that your hand is pointing to the top left corner of the paper or the book. Okay. So we have four corners, 1, 2, 3, 4 in any book. Your hand will point on the top left corner, not the Qalam, your hand. But you don't need to worry about that much, because that's the natural positioning of our hand. That's point two. Point number three is you'll hold the Qalam in such a way that the taller part of the nib points away from you and the shorter part of the nib points to the left shoulder. Now if you observe carefully, the Qalam that we use for Arabic calligraphy has a cut. This cut is around 45 degree, anywhere between 35 to 45 degree, which means the Qalam's nib is not equal in edges. One is shorter and the other is taller. So the longer or the taller part of the Qalam will stay away from you and shorter part will be towards you. If I take bamboo Qalam and explain you, all you do is you keep the shallow part away from you. This is the shallow part, you keep it away from you. So by default, the taller part will be pointing away from you and the shorter part of the nib will be pointing towards you. That's point number three. Finally, the default angle at which you hold the Qalam is 80 degree for Thuluth. Let me explain you. This is your y-axis and this is your x-axis. This is your 90 degree. Okay, if I divide this, this becomes your 45 degree. Okay, so your 80 degree would be somewhere here approximately. Okay, and this is approximately your 70 degree. We're working on approximation, so I hope you understand. So the point number one was your hand points to the top left corner. Point number two is the shorter part of the Qalam points to your left shoulder. And point number three is you keep the Qalam at this angle. You can keep the Qalam at this angle also, which is 70 degrees. So the angle of impact, as I call it, can be anywhere between 70 to 80 degree. Okay, so you can keep the Qalam. Ideally, I suggest you keep the Qalam at 80 degree because it helps you in making several letters. Sometimes for making Alif, I prefer this angle, which is around 80 to 70 degree. It really depends from letter to letter. Okay, but by default, you'll keep it at 80 degree. And if I use a smaller bamboo Qalam, this is how it would look. Okay. Excellent, unless otherwise specified. So the way I teach in the workshop is similar to what I'm showing you right now. If, as in when I start teaching letters, if I know that there are certain letters which use different angle, I specify that at that point in time. Okay, so well, Keep these 3 or 4 points in mind and start using the Qalam. It is going to be quite easy for you to do so. Now that you've learned how to use the Qalam, the angle at which you hold the Qalam, I'll give you some basic exercises that you can practice and build your hold of the Qalam before you start writing letters. Okay, the first exercise that you need to do is keep the Qalam at around 80 or 70 and you bring it down. Okay, just like that, just bring it down. Now when you practice this, kindly note that your hand, your palm will be planted on the book. You will not lift your palm, not like brush lettering artists. You will keep your palm planted on the paper or the book, and then along with the Qalam your hand also moves. Observe, my hand is somewhere here when I start the stroke, and it ends up being here when I end the stroke. So my hand is moving along with the Qalam. Allow me to demonstrate again. This is where I'm gonna denote that with my index finger. This is where my hand is when I start, and this is where it is when it ends. Okay, so your hand will not be stagnant, your hand will be moving along with the Qalam. So that's your first exercise. Practice this as much as you can because this will help you get a very good hold on the Qalam. Now second exercise is similar except you move horizontally. You keep the Qalam at 80 again, but you move the Qalam from left to right. You can make short strokes, that is fine. You don't need to make longer strokes. Just this. Okay. Similarly, you keep the Qalam at 80 degree again and you move from right to left. This is going to be difficult. This will give you some friction, so be patient while you do so. Okay. And finally, you keep the Qalam at the same angle and you go up straight. This is going to be the most difficult and the Qalam will give you a lot of friction, so be very, very patient. Okay. This is the first set of exercises. Vertical, horizontal, horizontal, vertical. Okay. Now you can start, once you get a good hang of this, you can start with a bit of advanced level of exercises. Not difficult, just a bit tricky. So you need to be careful. The next set of exercises involves you going at a different angle. Keep the Qalam at 80, but you move the Qalam at 45 degree. Like this. Diagonally. Again, you keep the Qalam at same angle, but this time you come down. Okay. Allow me to demonstrate again. Go up diagonally and come down from there diagonally. This is the first exercise from the second set. The second exercise is you'll make this stroke first now. You come down diagonally. Now you change the angle of the Qalam to 90 degree. And you go down diagonally again. Such that this should be almost 90 degree. Opposites. Okay. This is the second exercise from the second series. The third will be you go up and without lifting the Qalam you turn and you drop in the opposite direction. Again, look, go up, without lifting the Qalam you drop. Okay, this is the third exercise in this second series of exercises. Practice these exercises very well and it will help you a lot in explaining and writing letters well. Now, final topic of the video is going to be how do I make thinner and thicker strokes with the same Qalam. Kindly note, I'm going to introduce 2 points here, angle of impact and angle of movement. Okay. Let me draw the same x-axis and y-axis again. please note a simple funda. If the angle of movement of the qalam is same as the angle of impact, what I mean by angle of impact is the angle at which you keep the qalam on the paper. This becomes your angle of impact. Okay, let's take 70 degree as an example. Okay, now if I move the qalam in the same angle, that becomes angle of movement or motion. So this angle, this is the angle of motion. Now I keep the qalam at 70 again, but if I move it at 45 degree, let's see what happens. Did you observe the thick stroke and thin stroke? So what is the conclusion that you draw? If the angle of impact is the same as the angle of motion, then no matter how far do you go and in which direction you go, whether you go up or you go down, the stroke will remain thin. It is not going to be thick. And hence, the further you go away from the angle of impact, the thicker the stroke. There you go. Do you see the difference between this stroke and this stroke? This is because you're using the thickness of the qalam and you're using the length of the nib here. That is the reason why you get thick and thin strokes. Okay, and then later on when you start writing letters, you'll see manipulating the qalam, how you manipulate the qalam to get thin and thick strokes. Allow me to give you an example. Let me just write the first stroke of the letter ba. Now the angle of impact is this 80 degree, let's say. I'm going to come down towards my right hand side and then drop. Do you see how thick it is here and how thin it is here? It's because I kept changing the direction of the movement of the qalam and also the angle while I'm moving. Okay, that is the reason why you see thick and thin strokes. My angle of impact was this. If I have to move in the same direction, this is going to be the thinness. My angle of impact again remains the same, but I'm moving in this direction. That is why you see thickness of the stroke. Okay, so keep these things in mind and kindly practice as much as you can, because this video is a precursor and a very, very important video before I start with letters. Okay, in the next video, inshallah, I will teach you how to make the nuqta and what angle we use to make nuqta, and then post that we can begin writing the letters. Of course, in between somewhere I'll upload a video on supplies that you can buy. Okay, I have ordered a few supplies, so I need to get these before I start with that video. If you have any questions or suggestions, please drop a comment below or drop me a message on Instagram and I will respond. Follow my Instagram ID, which is Qalam or Kagas, and let me know if you have anything to say. That's all I have for this video. I wish you have a good day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.